Picture this. You finally picked your dream destination. You're enjoying the sunlight and the beautiful atmosphere and eating the local cuisine. But wait, there's a hidden maze of tax regulations you must figure out. Surprise! Let's unravel the tax labyrinth together. Welcome back, global adventurers, to Expats Toolkit, your guide to navigating moving and living abroad. Today we're going to tackle the topic of understanding as a foreigner and paying taxes in the United States as well as in your host country. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty. These are questions that you'll want to ask a tax lawyer or an expert in this field to help you navigate the system. What are your tax obligations on money generated in your host country? What are your tax obligations on money generated outside of your country? So therefore, if you are continuing to receive revenue from a business you have in the United States, are you required to file that on your taxes in your host country? What are the tax implications of buying property in your host country? And what are the tax implications of buying a car in your host country? Will your host country tax you on your pension? That's something really important to know because many of us who are planning to retire and live abroad want to know if we have to pay taxes on that pension income. What are the filing dates in your host country? You'll want to also find out what is the process of filing those taxes. Is there a website you have to go to? Do you have to have a lawyer file it for you? All of these questions you will want to ask a local tax expert. My first recommendation is to get from your expat groups or your relocation agency or your real estate agent, someone that they would recommend as a tax lawyer. I know that when we were researching to move to Spain, we spoke to a tax attorney about what were our implications of living there, what will we be required to pay as far as taxes go, especially on the income that we had in the United States. These are good places to start. I'm not a tax expert, so make sure that you go to someone that is an expert and get all the correct information. I'm just sharing with you today on where to start, what are some questions you need to ask, and things that you should be aware of. Do I still need to file my taxes in the United States? As long as you have a U.S. citizenship, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Do not assume that just because you're no longer living there that you do not have to be obligated to file taxes. Now, whether you have to pay any taxes, that's a whole nother animal because that is dependent upon whether you're generating an income, your age. As you know, there's lots of factors into that, but you still are required to file each and every year on the same time frame as you would if you were living in the United States. Here's some helpful tax exemptions for U.S. citizens that are living in another country. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Foreign Earned Income Exclusion. Basically what this says is that if you are working for a private company and live abroad and are still generating income, you have a deduction of $112,000. Now, you have to live a certain length of that year outside of the United States. I believe it is 330 days of the whole year. And you also have to have an address that can declare that you are living there. And there is a particular form. I believe the form number is 2555. You'll want to obviously check this out, that there is a tax deduction you can take as a foreigner. The next thing you want to be aware of is called the foreign tax credit. So what this is if you're required to pay taxes in the country you're living in, the United States will allow you to deduct that tax off of your U.S. taxes. Gives you the opportunity to, lower your tax burden because you've already had to pay taxes, say, if you live in Spain or Portugal or wherever. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, but please talk to your tax expert about these scenarios. I'm only making you aware of these situations so that you know what to ask. The next thing you want to talk about is foreign bank accounts. Now, granted, you will need a foreign bank account probably to function and operate in that country, but there is a set limit on the dollar amount you can have in that account, which is $10,000 before it becomes taxable in the United States. The $10,000 covers anything from checking accounts, savings accounts, any kind of account. If the total amount is more than $10,000, then you need to file taxes on it. The next thing is called the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. Basically, what this means, if you have assets, depending on if you're single or married, I think single is up to a threshold of $200,000, married couple is $400,000. And assets, obviously are properties, those sort of things. Then you need to file a 8938. This is just making them aware that you have assets up to those values in your foreign country. You don't have to report foreign real estate unless it meets that threshold. But if you sell any property during that tax year, you will need to report that information. State tax for expats. These are going to vary, obviously, from state to state. You will need to read through the rules and regulations within your state as to if you have to file those taxes and what your requirement is for your living abroad. Each state has a different requirement or a different, what they call tie to that state. So if you still have a mailing address or you still have a bank account there, it can be a lot of different things. They still consider you a part of that state, and therefore you have to file and pay state taxes. A whole nother animal that we'll get into is if you own a foreign business or have a corporation within a foreign country, but you as the owner are a U.S. citizen. According to the IRS, there is two particular foreign company types that exist. One is called passive foreign investment companies. This means that you generate 75% of your income through passive income or investments, or you have 50% assets on average from passive income. What is passive income? That's the question, right? This is income that the company did not provide in directly for services. These are such fine little wordings that you really need to have an expert guide you through this process. The other one that the IRS identifies with is called controlled foreign corporation. And this is for people that have shareholders and the foreign corporation has 50% or more owned or controlled by U.S. shareholders. There's separate forms that you'll need to file for those. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of that, but that's something that you will need to do if that's something you're a part of. Understanding the complexities of the foreign government you're in as far as tax codes and rules, as well as your own in the United States, you really need to make sure that you have someone guiding you through that process. The deadlines, April 15th, which everybody loves every year. You do get an extension. So if you don't owe any money, you have till June. But if you owe money, you have to file and pay all by April 15th. Meanwhile, the FBAR, the one that talks about how much money you can have in the bank, must be filed by October 15th. Now you say, well, how does the government know about how much money I have in the bank? Every foreign government who has a foreigner from the United States is obligated to report that number back to the United States. Now, what is the best way if you have a refund coming to you? How do you receive it? I would suggest that you set up an account with a company called Wise, WISE, and you can have your refund sent to Wise in dollars, and then you can take that Wise money and put it into your bank if you wish, wherever you're living. Wise is an excellent service of transferring funds. They will send you a debit card and you can use it just like a bank card. Travel to several countries throughout Europe, and it is an excellent way to handle your money situation. I suggest that as your best way to get your refund or have it direct deposit into your bank account in the United States and then obviously transfer it over to you. But just another option. Before I move on, I highly suggest that you look at some other videos I have about moving and living abroad. If you are thinking about this process and need some guidance, please reach out to me and I will give you where to go, what direction. I will also share with you any tips or information I have to give to you. But there are several videos on my YouTube page that you can check out and learn more about moving and living abroad. Are you feeling a little bit overwhelmed with this whole tax process? I know I am. Don't fret. Finding answers to your tax questions abroad is easier than you think. Consult with a local tax expert. Do some research on some governmental sites. Join some expat groups and ask questions about what they've been through or who do they recommend. There's a lot of people that do tax laws, but to really understand how to deal with a foreigner's taxes is a whole different animal. So make sure whoever you hire has some experience in dealing with that. One company that we use while we live here in Turkey is called My Expats Taxes. They're a great service, so check those out, myexpattaxes.com. Identifying what is your earned income is the tricky part. So take a look at that because we have a side business as well, but we thought that it wasn't identified as earned income and more of passive income, but it's all in the terminology. You also want to avoid double taxation, and that's why it's important to look at irs.gov on double taxation and find out what are the tax treaties with the country that you are living in. If you're finding all these tips helpful, please subscribe to Expats Toolkit. Also, if you give me a thumbs up, it'll help spread the word about how to go about this process and hopefully give you as much information as I can to improve your experience of moving and living abroad. Remember, understanding and complying with tax laws in your host country is essential for your success of living abroad. So arm yourself with knowledge and stay informed. Until next time, this is Expats Toolkit signing off. Happy exploring.